Hi there, students of the Cardiff Met variety. Welcome to How to Win at Moho with me, your host, that girl you've never met, Dani Abram. I'm going to walk you through how to rig for the canny project that we'll be working on together. I'm going to just really briefly introduce Moho to you, and then I will bring in one of the characters that we'll be working with. We'll rig it and then we'll animate it together. Fun times. So this is Moho. I think you might have already played with it. I hope so. If not, it's really simply laid out. We have tools down here on the left hand side. These change depending on what kind of asset you have selected or what mode you're working in. Down here at the bottom, like everywhere else, we have the timeline. It's nice and easy, simple layout, some art tools over here, and this is where our layers live, just like in Photoshop. So let us begin a new file. So file and new. I have my defaults all set to project settings. Sorry, let me just show you this. HD start frame. Let's put that on 48 for now, and that is all I want to play with, I think. 25 frames per second. Moho, rude. And let us file import, general import, and this will take us to let's open the goat. This is one of the artwork. No, that's wrong. Oh, Abram. Canny assets, episode 1, something about goats. White goat rig. I've already split this up for animation, so hopefully you will get a chance to do that too. But just import layers individually. Yes, please. We want all those lovely split up layers to be separate, otherwise our work is for nothing. So over here on the layers tab, you can see that has brought that in as a PSD. We have all our layers from our PSD, just like we wanted them, all named lovely, because naming convention saves lives. Thank you. The first thing I'm going to do is right click on this folder and change the change the layer type. I'm going to convert this to bone, which is really handy that it's something that you can just convert to rather than create a new rig layer. I'm so lazy. And now we see this little symbol here has a little bone next to it, so we know that we're of a bone type layer. So I'm not sure if you can notice over here in the tools, we now have some bone tools. And let's get rigging. So add bone. I always give my rigs like a master bone to start with, and I always do it sticking out of its bum for some reason. That's just a habit, I guess. And with this bone highlighted, every bone that's drawn after this will be joined to each other in a hierarchy, so we don't have to parent things together like we have to in, say, After Effects. So you'll see what I mean when I start drawing. I'm going to give this particular goat a big body bone right in the middle because I want to maybe squash him later. I've thought about this rig, obviously, before I started this tutorial, and so I kind of think I know what I want. Also, as a rigger, I am aware that I am not the end user. The animator is the end user, and so I want to be able to give the animator the tools in order to get the best animation out of the assets. Really important. You are not the center of your universe. I'm going to draw another bone here just to cover his backside. Or she, rude, cover her backside. And that sticks out there, and that was parented to the one that was in the middle of the body. Now I want to draw a new bone, but I don't want it parented to this backside bone. So I'm going to alt click the body bone in the middle to make that the active, and then I draw another bone this way. So I've got both halves. That's a stupid place to put that bone, hang on. I've got both halves of the torso covered with only 3 bones. Happy days. And then I'll continue this chain up his neck or her neck, up into the head, Gonna give it an epic face bone, it's called, and let's rig this little beard because, like I said, the animator might want to wiggle that. I want to rig this ear. If you see in the artwork layers, I've done this on purpose. I've separated the ear out because I want to move that separately from the head without any distortion. So I'm going to make the head bone the active by Alt-click, and then I'll draw a little bone chain there for the ears. I think that's what I want for the head. Okay, I'm going to rig the tail to this one. Alt-click, backside bone. Give this tail a little chain there for some movement, and then I will rig each leg. I meant the master bone, the first bone I ever drew, as the active bone, and every leg is going to be a child of that. So thigh, knee, toe. Alt click. Thigh, knee, toe. Alt click. 1, 2, 3. Alt click. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Okay, for now I think that's all I want. I'm gonna... Rigging is a little bit of a process. Rig test, rig test, rig test. So I'll give these a bit of a wiggle, see if I'm happy with them. If I'm not, then there's a myriad of different options we can do to change them. So if I start selecting, so here is my manipulate bones tool. When I click that, I'm going to see the bone weights. This is just the area underneath this particular bone that this bone is affecting. You might remember that from Maya, maybe not. But it's basically like the influence of that bone. That bone, this one in particular, is affecting a little bit of the torso, a little bit of the neck, and a little bit of the head. So if I give that a wiggle, Alt-click just to lock that to rotate, I can see that we have a bit too much movement down here. Looks a little bit gross. This one is leaving this behind. It's not as great as it could be. What does this one do? That little tummy fringe really wants to get involved with all these bones. Quite like that, but we have some influence on the horns there. All this is quite, this is like default Moho rigging weights, and a lot of it is lovely. That tail, there's a really nice curve then out of that tail. And remember, this is flat artwork, so that's wicked. And the legs are an absolute mess. Ew, jokes. Okay, so when we click just on your select bone tool, as long as you're on frame 0, it will just snap back to where you parented it when you first rigged it. I don't really know what to call that. Bind pose in Maya. It's called bind pose. Anyway, so I'm going to go through these different layers and figure out what I like, refine a little bit about what's been influenced by what. So the ear is a separate layer all of its own because I wanted it to be, and I wanted it to be only influenced by this bone chain. So if I select, so I've got the layer selected, I then have my bone menu has changed ever so slightly. If you can see this, if I'm on the bone, I get all these like bone tools, yay, that's the rig. If I go on a layer type, like an art layer, I get a lot, there's a lot more limited bone tools, and I've got some other fun things like bind layer. So I'm going to select the chin, shift select this chin with this ear, and I'm going to go into bone, and I am going to use selected bones for flexi binding, or because I'm smart, I'm going to Control Shift F because fast. Ugh, gross. Do it. Just edit that bit out. And that is now flexi bound to those bones. So this artwork layer is only being influenced by these 3 bones because of shift flexi binding. No, because of flexi binding. Head, different story altogether. I want the head to be influenced by these bones only. Control Shift F, flexi binding. We'll test that later. So I think that's all for now. The tail, obviously this chain of bones. Control Shift F, flexi bind that. Torso, these bones, and the neck, obviously because that's one piece of artwork. I'm going to include the head as well because when the head moves I obviously want it to take a little bit of neck with it. Control Shift F for flexi bind. Legs, easy really. This leg, obviously I want to do these bones, this leg for these bones for that, and all of them. Select all of them. Control Shift F. Okay, so that's the last layer in that's the last artwork layer in this rig. Let's see what that did. So if I manipulate my bones again, and you can see the weights haven't changed, but Alt click if you want to see what it's, if you just want to lock it to rotate per bone. Nice, look, it doesn't move his bum with it. Cool. Ear. Nice. It's not taking any horns. I like that. That's quite pretty. This might be a problem. Chin. Not so nice. Head. Why are you taking those frills with you? That one seems nice. That's nice. These are still a mess, and I'll tell you why. Because our influences are so wide. It's not that bad actually. I mean, get a bad director that'll probably say that'll do. But if we select the bones of the legs, each leg individually. No, actually, fuck it, let's go all in. Let's select all these leg bones, and if we go up here to our bone strength tool, so it's the bone with the circle drawn around it, click that to get all our bone strengths up, and because we've already selected all these, we use our mouse, right click and drag to manipulate what those bones are influencing, and we just have that as basically as thin as our artwork because these legs are quite skinny. Manipulate bones and then see if that looks better. Nice, see, that'll do. And then with this particular mode of binding, the flexi bind, it does mean that the artwork is going to get like a little bit of bend and flex out of it. If we zoom in and have a look at that, like it's not perfect. And there are things we can do about this kind of thing. We can introduce things like meshes, but for now, for this particular artwork, I think I'm pretty happy with the subtle flex that we'll get out of that. This toe is a bit of a problem. Maybe we'll try and put some more strength on this one. And it's a bit of a fight, like if you notice if I change one, other bits of artwork wiggle around and pause, like it's a constant pause the rig, see what it's doing, fix the rig, pause it again. Is it working to how you want it? I think this will be fine now. I think I'm happy with that. I mean this goat's never gonna have close up on its feet. So I like that as it is. And same for the tail. Who's we? It's only me here. If I just make this so it hugs the artwork a little bit more strength wise, then that will only affect the tail. It's just being neat now because I know the ears are only bound to those anyway. This can be a bit fatter, maybe. Yeah, cool. So do you remember when the beard was taking that torso with it? With the strength of this upped, this sort of becomes the main driver of that, of the body. Okay, does that make sense? I've lost track. Am I doing this too quick? Are you good? Are you okay? Calm down. It's fine. I'm with you. You can just stick your hand up and ask a question. Morgan will answer it. He knows what he's doing. Okay, cool. Rigged. I would call that rigged. So the next thing to do, I guess, would be move on to animation. Like if you or I are happy with how your character is now rigged and moving, we can start making this little thing skip. Yeah, happy. Good, A star. I say you pass. If you do it exactly like I just said, I'm approving it. I'm your boss. I'm approving. Okay, cool, done. Love it. 15 minutes. That took 15 minutes. Rigged. Goat. 15 minutes. I will see you with the next one for some animation. I'm going to do this in 2 because I'm scared and I think I've been talking too long. Thanks.